Okay, well, we got all this stuff out here to get the control arm unbolted, and we succeeded. We got it unbolted. It's off of there. Got the spring out over here. Got the jack. We had to support the control arm on the way down. It's going to be a real pain to get it back up in there, but because I didn't use a spring compressor on this, but because they're lowering springs, you can pry them up a little bit to where they need to be, and then get the jack underneath it and lift it all back up. So there we are. The bolts are up in, well, they're like right behind here. So they're up in here, and somehow I'm gonna get a wrench either up in here or up in there to get on the bolts for the motor mount. Lovely. So I'm gonna move this control arm out from underneath it and probably crawl underneath on the creeper and try and get a wrench or something on there. And this might be a two-person job. We'll see. Now I could probably get my arm around here with the impact. Anyway, I would love to do a tubular K-member and lower control arms in this thing, as well as like some strange stainless evolution front brakes. Those would be awesome on this thing. But this is what we're running for now. Definitely not in the budget this year to do even just lower control arms. I'm a little over budget as it is, so yeah, we'll see. That may be an upgrade for later years. I'd love to see it done, but that's what we're working with for right now. So here we go. Well, we got it done. So we got those nuts off the bottom. Actually, there's a bolt that comes through on the bottom and a nut that goes on top, which I think is just stupid, but whatever. So what we got now on top, we can just take this and pick it right off. Yay, what fun. I'm gonna wipe some of that grime off of there with my wire brush, but there's the old one. Woohoo. How nice. Here's the new one. That's going to be going right on top, right there. So obviously it's a solid motor mount, because this is much less a daily driven car and much more a streetable race car. It's going to be a quote-unquote street car, because I am still going to drive it quite a bit, hopefully, but it is geared, everything that I'm doing to it is geared toward racing. So if you're making a cruising car that you want to feel very nice on, handle very well, and not have a whole lot of vibrations in it, don't use solid motor mounts, okay? These are not for your cruising cars. These are for your race cars, basically. And even these, there's steps more than this, like doing a motor plate and a mid plate, and not running motor mounts, just using those instead. But this is so that you lose no performance from the engine through your rubber bushing. So if you're trying to build a cruiser, either get a replacement rubber bushing or get upgraded like poly bushing, something like that. But if you don't want to feel like vibrations from the motor and stuff, don't put in solid motor mounts. Anyway, we'll go ahead and put these bolts in the top here. Can get it to actually hang in there for a second. There we go. Oh yeah, I was gonna wipe that off. See, I got talking and I forgot what I was doing. Let's grab the brush. A little bit of rusty crusty on there. Probably just leave that be for now. I have some undercoating stuff, spray can stuff that I could put on there, but I'm not really worried about it, as eventually I want to replace that K-member anyway. So if it rusts in half, which I don't see being very likely, seeing as this thing only gets driven in the summer, and that's the rust that accumulated over its lifetime from 1987 to 2024. I'm not really worried about it. But if it did rust, it'd have to be a great excuse to replace it. Anyway, we're going to go ahead and slap this thing on there. Maybe. Perfect. We'll run that other bolt through the bottom, and that'll be that motor mount. And we'll have to do all the, take the tire off and lower control arm and everything off this side and sway bar mount. Yeah, the whole thing on this side just to do that. So, really tempting to put different control arms and stuff in here while I'm in here, but we're not going to do that. Yeah, here we're going to go putting it back together. Okay, so you see how much movement there is in these bolt holes? How much slop? So because of how hard it is already to get the motor to line up just right, I am not going to bolt those down yet. Tighten them down. I'm going to go ahead and leave all of the stuff taken off over here. Do the same to the other side. We're gonna rip all the all that stuff out of here, and we're gonna just leave those loose for now, so we can put the motor in first, bolt the motor to the motor mounts, and then snug them down. Yeah, that'll be a little more difficult, or a lot more difficult, because clearance. Yeah. So we may have to do a test fit. I think what we'll do is we will what we could do is either right now, before I send the motor off to the machine shop, I could take it off of here, put the other sides of the motor mounts on, and just set the block down in there so that the motor mounts will be where they're supposed to be. I'll put the bolt through them, all that, and then tighten them down, because then I'll kind of know where they're at. That way I don't have everything on top of the motor. I think I'll try and do that. I'm going to try and do that, is do just a block, and it doesn't have to be that block necessarily. I could use that 400 block or that 350 block. But that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a bare block in there with the motor mounts so I can get the right positioning for all that, and then I'm going to snug them down. So anyway, I'm going to start tearing apart this side now. Well, we got the other motor mount in there. Got the bolts all tightened up. I ended up putting the other end of the motor mount on the bare block and setting it down in there with the bolts through the mounts, just to make sure they were in the correct position before I tightened them down. That way it'll be a little easier to line everything up when we go back together. We're going to start putting things back together here on the driver's side. We got our lower control arms over there and our brakes. And we'll bring it back here and start putting it all back together. And the lower control arm's back on. Sway bar's rehooked up, struts are reattached to the knuckles. I did not reattach the brake calipers. They're just setting on there because the pads are getting pretty worn thin. I'm going to put new pads on it before it's ready spring. I put new coil spring insulators, a little rubber, probably about a 1/4 inch thick on the top of these coil springs because the originals were quite deformed. But that is what it takes to get the motor mounts in and out. And it's kind of a pain, but that's what it is. So now I'm going to start working. I got these axle seals unbolted and popped out the other night. I didn't get any footage of that, but they're popped out. Both sides are. So I'm going to go ahead and start taking bolts out of the third member there. I'm going to try and get that out tonight. It's mostly drained. Probably going to get quite a bit of fluid out of it still. I think we'll try and do that next, and then maybe work on installing the new anti-roll bar as well if we have time for that. But that's what we've gotten done so far tonight. Okay, so we got the third member out. Put it over here by where the transmission's at on this bench for working on it. There you have it, right there. So it's a Yukon gear and axle housing. It's got a US gear in it. Let's see if we can find that logo. Yeah, so we'll see if you guys can see it or not, but right there, kind of hard to see, but it's the US gear logo there. So that's a 350 gear ratio in it right now. This is a locker of some kind. It might be a Yukon Detroit locker. It might be, I don't know exactly what, or a Yukon Grizzly locker, a Detroit locker, or one of the other brands of lockers, but it is a locking differential. It's not a spool, and I'm glad of that because it's street driven. But anyway, yeah. So we're gonna. I'm still waiting on my gear ring to come in. We're changing it from the 350 ratio to a 410. That'll be able to launch a lot better and accelerate a lot quicker, and being able to turn the engine to 7,000 RPM. I'm not really worried about running out of RPM in the quarter. So, and it should still be all right. I was thinking about a 430, but that's just a little too much because this thing is street driven still. It does have overdrive, but that 411 or 410 will be a lot friendlier for that than the 430. So now I don't have this big of a Allen socket with me. I'll have to get those from work to take that apart. But anyway, this is where we're going to disassemble the third member, center section they call them also. This is where we're going to disassemble this and get it all cleaned up, ready to go. I do have the new bearing kit and a new seal for all of it, so that's all set. Probably tomorrow I'll try and work on putting, these are airsoft guns, don't worry. I'll work on putting the, what am I thinking of? Anti-roll bar in the back. Yeah, I think we should be able to get it in here. It bolts on in the same location as the stock sway bar. It's just a lot beefier and more adjustable, so you can get your side-to-side adjustments properly, your preload, and then if you're swaying too much one way or the other, you can tighten it down. And anyway, tuning with a
a roll bar. That'll be very nice. So this is my bearing kit. You can take that over there. I got I borrowed one of my father-in-law's bullet heaters for in here. They're pretty nice. Heats it up pretty quick, but it gets too hot, honestly. So anyway, yeah, that's what we got going on here. Those are all finished up. Engine, I'm gonna take it to the machine shop Monday or Tuesday next week. Yeah, and that'll be maybe 8 weeks, up to 8 weeks before it comes back. So we'll see. We got brake stuff. I got to put my line lock kit in, and then this is the master cylinder that's going to go in. And I got to run another brake line. It's gonna go. The line lock's gonna go on the rear brakes. So I'm gonna run a brake line from here to the line lock, which will be mounted down here, and then this will go on the bottom of the line lock. And then, so I got to make one brake line for that. I think I can just get an adapter because both of these ports are the same size, and this master cylinder, this port is larger because it's got two different size brake lines. This one's slightly smaller than this one, but I think I can get an adapter for this flare nut that will make it work within this master cylinder just fine for that. And then I won't have to make any more brake lines there. So that'll be that project. But yeah, everything's coming along pretty well. It's just February now. I haven't had a chance to work on this thing very much recently, but anyway, that's it for tonight.